Yep.
He's not here.
Oh, yeah, oh, yeah.
Then one day, librarian said, "You're having any more meetings?"
Call the meeting to order for the Planning and Zoning Commission, Monday, December 13th, 2021. Roll call, please.
Mark Hydrich.
Here.
Mark Kleesner.
Here?
Mark Piontek.
Here.
Tom Hobart.
Here.
Andy Lucy.
Here.
John Boardman.
Here.
Chuck Watson.
Here.
Samantha Wacker. Carolyn Witt.
Here.
Mike Wood.
Here.
Sam Maniaci.
Here.
Please rise for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the November 8th, 2021 meeting.
Other than a few grammatical errors, which I think the computer program probably just missed a little bit, I approve the minutes. Make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 3, file number 1201, Joe and Karen Foss, special use permit for 921 West 5th Street, short-term lodging. Sal?
Yes, thank you. So this is yet another request for short-term lodging. As you all are all aware, our city code requires anyone requesting to do any lodging or rentals less than 30 days outside of the downtown district or commercial overlay to receive a special use permit. And this particular property is located just west of High and 5th Street here. You can see it, Fair Street, actually, the cul-de-sac where Fair Street terminates is directly to the rear. It is zoned R1B, single-family residential. This area of 5th Street does have a variety of uses as you go up and down, but there's about 2-block span here that is single-family, and then you get into the 2-family, and then the overlay as you get closer to downtown. As you can see, on here, this property does have street parking and a driveway access. It does not have any alley access as some of the other properties we've looked at recently. And then there are, if you look at this map, this is just a map of our existing short-term lodging, not all of them, but just kind of in a span I did from our GIS. The closest one is about a block and a half to the northwest here off of Horn Street. And so I think this would be our 32nd registered. That does not mean they're all active, but that's how many we have registered. So staff recommends approval of the request. These are typically, you know, they're incidental to the use, still residential in nature. They are required to get an annual inspection, a business license, and register for the bed tax, just like all the other short-term lodging. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Sal, is that house 2-family now? Because I looked at the pictures online with the realtor, and it looks like there's an apartment going in upstairs or something.
I did, the occupancy permit on it has single family currently.
Okay, because there's like 2 kitchens.
Okay.
Well, I was
Yeah, we
wondering.
can ask the applicant if they're planning on doing
Okay.
dual. And that would allow, the special use permit would allow for that.
Wood, that's what I thought.
Any other comments, questions by board?
The parking, though, is, I mean, they have off-street parking. It's shared by neighbor there?
Correct, yeah. It's what it looks like. I mean, it looks like, I don't have an official survey they submitted, but from our zoning
Why,
maps.
It looks like.
Yeah, when you go by, it looks like it spans across the property line, cars on each side, and then from our aerial, it seems that's the case, so.
But it
You don't
does
know
look
how
like
many-
they're using it as one unit, correct?
For the
For the occupancy?
The applicant will have to answer that, but we allow, if they decide to do 2 units, they can just get 2 occupancy inspections done.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone in the audience that would like to come up, please introduce yourself and your address, please.
Hi, I'm Linda Munsard. I'm at 912 West 5th Street. I
You
live
wanna
in a...
pull the microphone up.
We
Pull
pulled
the
the mic up.
microphone up.
Okay. Sorry, I've never done this before.
Yep,
Oh,
that's
that's
right.
fine.
Okay, I'm Linda Munsart. I'm at 912 West 5th Street.
so I'm kind of catty corner from that. I'm very concerned about the parking. We have no driveways across the street. The whole entire other side, no driveways. So we have alley parking behind, but like behind my house, Ameren has a pole right in the middle of my backyard, so all we have is street parking. I know that there was a 5-car accident a couple years ago on the street. My son's car was totaled a few years before that, right in front of the house. Very concerned about the parking. I'm also concerned about how they're going to qualify the people that stay there. There's up to 17 to 20 young children in that block. Those are my two main concerns: safety, parking.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Because the applicant didn't make it.
Okay. If there's no other comments from the audience, any other comments by board? Questions?
So, Sal, if they are going to do two-family, it won't make any difference with this special use?
No, so that allows, it allows it in the special use permit.
But they'll basically, if they have two separate units, one up, one down, each one has to have its own inspection, is what?
Correct, yep.
What you're saying.
So it can be one business license, but the business license expires every June, and all of our short-term lodging, they have to have that inspection reapplied for when their business license expires.
So to get a business license, you have to have an occupancy.
Yep, just for our short-term lodging, yep. Our commercial ones don't do that typically, but for this use, we do.
Off-street, is it 2 parking spots, the way it looks?
Yes, I mean, unless you park people, I guess guests could park each other in and get more, but
I see that.
And do we have a qualifying number for parking at a long term?
it's the same as typical residential, so.
Okay.
Any residential requires 2 off-street.
So then there would be a limit on occupancy then as well?
Well, our building code requires that no matter what use, or no matter if it's short-term or long-term. The International Building Code requires if a room has so many square foot, that's how many people you can fit in that room. So this qualifies just like any other home would.
I see.
Any other questions or comments?
Is that the owner? Okay.
If there's nothing else, I'll entertain a motion
I'll make a motion.
to approve.
I'll second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So
Aye.
moved. Oh, sorry. A little fast there.
Jump in there.
This will go to City Council next Monday, the 20th, for a final vote.
Moving on to item number 4, file number 211202, Best Box, Washington, Missouri, 47 LLC, is requesting to rezone 4255 Highway A from R1A, Single Family Residential, to C2 General Commercial. It's also tied into the special use permit, item number 5, file number 211203. Best Box Washington Mo 47 LLC is requesting a special use permit for self-storage units. Sal?
Yes, thank you. So yeah, I
Sal,
have,
can you get the TV on, or is that, sorry.
was it not working from the get-go?
Waiting for.
You also.
Oh, I'm sorry. Both are Highway 47.
Yeah, it's Highway
Make sure you-
47. On the,
Yep.
on the agenda, it says Highway A. On the applicant,
But
it
it's
says
Highway
47.
47.
Was that working at all?
No, it says waiting for connection.
Well, it's not, I mean,
We'll just turn around.
can't get it, don't have to spend a lot of time.
There's 2 HDMI ports plugged in. That may be an IT problem for tomorrow. I'm afraid if I unplug it, I'll unplug everything.
No, that's fine.
So yes, this application, the first, I do have the presentation kind of for both here because the applications do go together. They are 2 separate requests. The first is to rezone 4255 Highway 47. This is on the southern edge of our city limits here. Our city limits do border the south boundary here. And that's for the rezoning from R1A, single-family residential, to C2, general commercial. They are also asking for a special use permit for self-storage units. In our code, self-storage units, whether they're in C1 or C2, they require a special use permit to be submitted up front. I think the main intent there is for screening purposes and because it is more of a warehousing use than most commercial, to make sure that it doesn't affect the neighboring properties. But as for the zoning, again, this property is just south of what used to be a church there. I couldn't tell you the name of that church.
First Christian.
First Christian, thank you. Now the school district has that for some of their meeting spaces and I think a continued education building. So that property itself is zoned C4. Well, now it's C4. It's planned commercial when that originally went through. You can see here this is still zoned R1A, single-family residential. You have commercial zoning across the street, but that is the mobile home park there that has access off 47 directly across from this current access, as well as this. They have another access to the north. This property will have access off of 47. They will have to make some improvements to that per MoDOT's recommendation. But as for the zoning itself, this is kind of blurry. We don't have this in our GIS, but we have a PDF in our comp plan. You can see in our comp plan right here, our future zoning map of the city's comprehensive plan does have this property as commercial. That corridor all up and down the highway there has been designated as future commercial uses as the city develops to the south. And so the first request to the C2 is kind of a no-brainer. It falls in line with the intent of the comprehensive plan. And then the uses there in our zoning code protect surrounding properties just like on any other commercial property. So we do recommend approval of the rezoning from R1A to C2 general commercial. The second request is for the special use permit for storage units. They are requesting to have 6 buildings of storage and then 1 kind of office warehousing here. To the north, you can see a rendering in the bottom corner of what that would look like. They do show just the driveway coming off the property here. This plan doesn't show any improvements that they're planning to the driveway itself. They do have the adequate parking spaces. There's 15 required per that amount of warehousing space that they show on there. And they do show the screening to the west, because that's where the neighborhood, the residential zoning is. There is a fence on this southern border. It does not have a note of what type of fence that is on the plan, but we didn't make a recommendation to make that site-proof or anything because our comprehensive plan has that property to the south as commercial, and our code does not require screening between commercial and commercial. So as of right now, we have not made any recommendation on that. As for the use itself, as for commercial property, access to the highway, there's a variety of uses up and down 47. Actually, when you get outside the city limits, some of those uses do get a little bit more industrial, and this use is permitted industrial, special use and commercial. And so I don't think it's out of character for the area. They'll obviously have to make some improvements, some grading and everything. So with this request, the use itself, staff sees no issue with this. We recommend approval of the use. We are having some conditions of approval on here. There's going to probably have to be some clarification or changes to the site plan to meet these. But the reason we're conditionalizing the approval is because we actually, city staff once a week sits down and looks at any permit that's submitted, and we go through exactly what you see on here in-house anyway on all of our other commercial properties. We make sure access is okay if it's on the highway. Fire department approval, in this case, the distances aren't shown on here in the radius, so we want to make sure every building here has to be within 150 feet of a fire lane. And so if they can make a radius around here, they may have it, but they'll need to designate that. And then also stormwater detention isn't shown on this plan. Again, from staff's point of view, the use is permissible. The site plan for the first phase is permissible. We're recommending approval of this. We're just recommending a condition that they'll have to submit a letter from MoDOT that they either have to upgrade that to commercial status or get a letter from MoDOT that it's fine as is. And then the fire department approvals specifically for the fire hydrants and the fire lanes. And then they'll have to submit plans to the engineering department that stormwater will be handled and won't be running off site. So I know that can kind of seem like a lot that it may be missing from the site plan, but again, we reviewed this actually at 2 site plan meetings, and determine, we actually look at those in-house on a weekly basis and are able to hold off on building permits until the minimum requirements of the code are submitted anyway. And so we felt comfortable recommending approval of the special use permit to still go forward with council. And then before they get a building permit, they can submit a plan that shows these 3 requirements.
Has anybody from the fire department even looked at the road and stuff?
Yeah, so they're on our site plan committee. Mike Holtmeyer and Chief Frankenberg both reviewed this. Basically, the comment was we'll need more information on the fire lane, the fire hydrant, and then this driveway into it to make sure it meets grade and everything. But again, we didn't see that as a need to postpone this, given that we reviewed this.
I understand that there was a problem with the access to the church building because they couldn't get school buses up there. So that's why they didn't use it for what it was originally planned for.
It's too steep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're gonna have to,
Well, they're going to have to
really
redo it,
yeah,
redo
they'll
it to
definitely
to
have to.
get MoDOT, so I imagine they would have to.
I would assume MoDOT would require some type of improvement to that entrance. That's a residential entrance.
Yeah.
And so when those improvements are made, they can do what they need to the driveway, widen it, whatever's required. But again, we've done this on a number of commercial uses up and down the Highway 100 and 47 where they submit a site plan, we just hold off on the building permit till we have all the appropriate documentation.
So is the drive to the school property, is that their drive specifically for them, and then the,
Yeah, you can see in the aerial, it pretty much, it's hard here, it comes straight up into the property, and there's a 90-degree turn to the north.
so basically they've just gotten an easement from them to be able
Correct.
to use that and stuff in the meantime, all the
Correct.
time and stuff like
Yep.
that?
I would assume that it's still going to be cross-access
That's-
agreement. Yep,
That's
but-
going to be between the parties there.
correct.
What about lighting, flood lighting and all that? Is that something that's addressed in the code too?
Yeah, so they'll have to submit that when they do their actual construction plans. They have to submit the lighting height, and then a note typically that verifies that it's directed away from any residential. And then that's typically complaint-based where, we don't do inspections at night, but if a neighbor calls and says, hey, those are pointed at us, we can say, hey, you said in your plans that you're going to have these pointed the correct direction, and we have the authority to call that as a zoning violation. And there's typical for any commercial property, we have lumens and,
Right, that's what I thought.
if they put up a spotlight or something, that kind of thing.
Any other questions, comments by board? If not, I see the applicants here. If you'd like to come forward, introduce yourself. Even if you wouldn't, come up and say your name.
What's that?
I said, even if you don't want to come up and say your name.
My name's Bo Reinberg, and we are the applicant for this project. And again, we're really excited about it. We develop self-storage across the country, so we have 26 sites currently under development in different states across the country. And we developed one out on Highway 100 most recently in the area, and have another one planned on 47 between Union and St. Clair, and feel like this is really a quality location for Washington as it continues to grow and require additional amenities for that growth. And what we've seen nationally is historically self-storage is always driven, unfortunately, by death, divorce, and displacement. And what's happened now with COVID is there's this fourth D of decluttering, where you have a lot of individuals who are making room in their house for maybe a home office or something to that nature. And so our use has really been very important for consumers and residents and municipalities all over, as you can see by the just the use of it. If you try to get a storage unit somewhere around town, it's pretty difficult at times. And so we really feel like we offer a product that's really Class A, and even though it's single story and more traditional in nature, we also have a climate-controlled option. As you can tell from our elevation, we really pay a lot of attention to the detail that goes into the building itself to make it, again, a unique brand and concept that the individuals in Washington will like to use. We really focus on safety, security, lighting, as we touched on, but appropriate lighting. And listen, our a neighbor who lives anywhere close to us is probably our low-hanging fruit customer, so the last thing we want to do is upset them, and if a light gets knocked off center and is shining somewhere it shouldn't, we get it fixed right away. I mean, that's, our business is about our neighbors, and so we have to take care of them. So, like I said, we think this is an appropriate location for this type of facility in town, and Sal and the staff have been phenomenal to work with, so we're looking forward to the process.
Questions, comments by board?
Where's your facility on Highway 100 now? Is it
Right at M
M
and 100.
Okay. I know somebody that lives right behind there and has no complaints, so that's
Good, yeah, thank you.
That's always good.
Yeah, I agree.
That's good.
Assuming we approve, it's going to be with those 3 conditions that they had listed. Do you have any concerns with those 3, or do you think you're going to be able to meet those concerns?
No, I mean, it's a challenging site. I mean, the grade and the topography, I mean, we knew that going into it and knew that stormwater was an important aspect of a site of that size and also that topography. So, you know, it's not an easy solution, but it's a have to, not a, you know, it's not something we could neglect. And obviously the fire department, that access and is really critical to our design. And then as far as MoDOT, again, we couldn't have something that steep anyways. I mean, if you think about our use with U-Haul trucks and trailers and different things, it is not a customer friendly experience to have to go up a grade when you're already probably not real happy about moving, so.
Is Highway 47 a limited access highway?
I haven't been told by MoDOT that it specifically is. I would be surprised. I mean, I would think it is there until you get a little bit further south, which is, since they already have access, I would say they just
Right,
have
it'll be
a
okay.
requirement approval to widen. I know 100, pretty much in the city limits, is limited. Like we can't make any more cuts. I would assume 47 is the same way in the city limits, but to be honest, we haven't had a request for a highway cut on 47 since I've been here. So,
be interesting to see if they let that go as is or make it a right in, right out only, because I can't tell you how many wrecks we've had there just from the traffic on the other
Yeah,
side.
MoDOT would
yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah, and I think too, with the school district's building on the other side where the church was, I mean, hopefully our plan is such that works out for them as well to make that entrance a better entrance for the school district. I mean, that's a good thing about this type of development is there's consequences around you that can be really positive instead of just negative, and hopefully that's one of the positive consequences that improves. Because I agree, it's not, I mean, it's,
Yeah.
and again, from a customer standpoint, we don't want to be known as a storage facility that you got to cross your fingers to pull in or out of.
So do you have an average number of cars that use the facility on a day's basis?
So self-storage is the lowest commercial use for traffic. I mean, a busy self-storage facility is about 20 vehicles a day.
A day? Okay.
Yeah, if you kind of look at the average.
And how many units are you proposing there?
This facility would have right around 400 units.
400 units.
How many
Yeah, it's about
units do you have?
65,000 net rentable square feet. Like, what's that?
Go ahead.
Well, 64,000 net rentable square feet, and so, you look at your average unit size in a facility like this is about 150 square feet, so
Okay.
How many units do you have down there at Highway M?
320.
Any other questions, comments by board?
Yeah, Bo, if you have fencing on the north and south ends of that property, do you think the buffer is going to be enough on the backside, on the west?
Well, on the backside, the grade drops huge. I mean, it goes down into that creek down in the bottoms there. So I wouldn't think that would be an issue,
Not
but
anything for a long distance behind that property, correct?
yeah, no, I mean,
That
there's,
Just Dawn Valley, and that's on the other side of the creek, and then
that's on the other side of the creek and then some, yeah.
That creek runs right behind the church there.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Right, thanks.
Thanks.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on it? Yes, come on up.
Hi, I'm Carl Huxell, 325 Olive, representing my dad, 118 Don Drive. Biggest concern is is how much of the hill are they gonna take off? And with the stuff that they take off the hill, are they gonna push it down the creek? Because the last person that was up there before the city got in, before the school district got in there, they pushed everything over the hillside. You look out the back window of the dad's house, that's all you see. I mean, I understand the light issue and all that kind of stuff, and I understand the growth of the community and stuff. How much of that hill is going to be taken down that's going to get all that stuff pushed down towards the creek?
I think Sal can then.
Yeah, so Bo may be able to answer the specific of elevations, but as for the grading permit, anything that's more than an acre of disturbance, which obviously this will be, we require a DNR permit, which means they have to submit a plan up front, not only to us, but to the state as well, which requires before and after elevation. And then if there is a blue line creek, which I would assume USGS calls a ditch a blue line creek typically, so I would be shocked if this is not a blue line creek. And then it basically is very clear that they have to stay out of a buffer from that waterway and can't disturb the banks, including that. So I would say that we have some pretty good protections in place, not only with us, but with the state, to make sure that the bank of the creek is stabilized and not pushed into.
I mean, that's the thing. When it does flood, I mean, it pushes everything down, and I mean, the more stuff that gets pushed over that edge, I mean, it is very steep, but at the same time, it's like the more crap you put in there, the more it gets built up. So I just wanted to make sure that that's not going to get pushed down the hill.
So they'll be able to balance the side as much as they can by moving dirt around, but they won't be able to push anything into that buffer of the creek. They'll have to submit that on the plan. And our code actually requires a silt fence along there while the grading's going on, so that even if it rains during the construction period, it's not washing all that silt and mud down.
So how long ago was it that you're talking about all that other stuff was pushed over there?
That's what I was going to say, Carl. 'cause
I
that
don't
was-
know how
that-
long
we
it's
were-
been. I
that
mean, I
was
don't even know how
outside
long the
city
city's.
when that
I
Yeah,
don't-
so my point is now,
no protection.
the things, there's a lot more, like Sal says, with the silt fences and things like that, it's like the DNR really controls a lot more of that now, because just same concern as what you're
Yeah,
referring
just
to.
a lot of that debris is still hanging on the hillside.
Yeah,
So
but that's
just
what they
don't want them pushing it further
Right.
down the hill.
And that's what DNR controls a lot more of that, to prevent that. And again, like Sal says, they make them put silt fences up and stuff like that. And if they get enough silt and the thing knocks back down, they get them to put them back up and stuff like that. It's a lot different than what years ago, but.
And we have a city inspector that goes around and inspects all active projects. So if there's ever a time during construction that you see that is happening, you can always call us and we'll send somebody out there.
Okay. Because, I mean, grew up there, and I mean, you know how, when changes come about, but at the same time, it's just you don't want everything to be washed down the hill.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But
All
it-
right,
Thank you.
Thank you, Carl.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Come on up.
Hi, I'm Mike Claycamp, 301 Richard Drive. I'm on behalf of my family farm. Just curious of the south side, what kind of fencing that's going to be on?
We can get him back up in there.
Yeah, I mean, so on the south side here?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
the farm side now.
usually what we've done is like a black vinyl chain link that's
Okay.
with the slats in it, that's kind of side-proof, but, I mean, quite frankly, we would be happy to coordinate and
With
talk to
whatever
you.
it is, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I go by the one out there in M, so I thought, okay, that's probably what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, I
So
mean,
just,
we don't do, we generally speaking won't do like barbed wire.
No,
So,
no,
we
yeah.
want it to look
Right.
really we spend a lot on these sites. We want them to look really good, but we'd be happy to coordinate
Okay.
and, talk about that.
all right, no problem.
Glad we could work that out.
That's right.
Oh, there you go. Nice.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak?
Boy, we are really good, aren't we?
Any other comments, questions on the
Love
board?
it when everyone's civil. This is good.
This is wonderful.
Yes, this is good.
If there's nothing else, no other comments, entertain a motion.
I would move we approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Oh, let's
Wait.
specify it, we're doing number 4.
Right,
The
The
rezoning.
rezoning.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So that was your motion?
4, yes,
And your
rezone.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
I'll move we approve the special use permit.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Goes to council.
Yes, a week from today.
Right.
Merry Christmas.
Yep, and thank you very much for
Thank you for being here.
cooperating.
And coming in, this
Yep.
is good.
Moving on to file number 6, file number 21-1204, Annexation, Vic Horse Camp, Coke Farms.
All right, I think this was pretty straightforward. This is the Shive property. It was one of the 3 parcels that was up for auction on November 10th of the Camp Schrader Farm. Vic Horse Camp did purchase these 10 acres here. It looks like 2 parcels, but that's an old section line on the county map. So this is 1 parcel here, and it backs up to both of his subdivisions. He started Malvern Hill, and then he also finished Weber Estates, or the overlooks Weber Farm. And so he is requesting, this is just an annexation, no preliminary plat, to bring in this property as R1D, single-family residential. You can see here that is all of what this zoning is. That is the zoning we introduced in 2013 to allow for single-family homes down to 7,500 square foot lots. So we think that's natural progression. That obviously has been the most popular market-rated housing right now for new subdivisions. So, I think that this is good for our development. It matches our comprehensive plan, and it matches the surrounding zoning. So we recommend approval.
I have one question.
Yes.
How do we get access to it?
So it'll come, I have seen a preliminary plat, but it was not finalized enough for them to get us on the agenda. It will have access to Beaker Road. Utilities will come from the north, off of Rabbit Trail, and there's water and sewer. They will have access off of Beaker, and then there will be a stub street to our future. Now, we've already sat down with the developer and the neighboring property to let them know that our comp plan has Beaker or Rabbit Trail running through here. And so we're looking at options to maybe try and redesign that to maybe just have one street. But we've had some variable layouts that would not disturb it would still allow for our comp plan connection here.
Quail Run. I just don't want another Quail Run.
Quail Run.
One way in and one way
in,
out.
one way out.
Oh,
Off
yes.
of 14th Street.
Yes, okay, I see what you're saying. So,
Right now, there is no connecting shown there. As long
Yes.
as we make sure that that connecting street stub is somewhere there in the plan.
yeah.
I'm okay with that.
So that was the first one, is they actually had a curved in, lots on each side, and then a stub coming to here.
Do you know who purchased the other 20?
This one didn't sell. This is still Jeannie Helsher with the Camp
That's
Schrader family.
why I'm concerned.
Yeah, it did not sell.
Because
So,
that's going to be a while.
again, I'm assuming it'll be next month, actually, because they've been designing it. From what we saw, it would have access off Beaker, and they would actually have a temporary hammerhead, and not even a cul-de-sac. So a temporary hammerhead here, that whenever this would connect, that hammerhead would just get incorporated into those neighboring lots.
And what if it doesn't connect?
Well, it's less than 30.
How long, let me ask you this. How long do they have till it has to connect? There is no time frame, is what I'm getting at, right?
Correct.
That's what I thought. That's my only concern, Sal, with this, is that
But that's still
getting
like,
the rabbit
like,
trail link has been a challenge for us for years.
I can
And-
tell you that maybe this is some ammunition to lobby for some
movement.
to facilitate some.
That's
lots there.
that's my point, because we've always wanted to get interconnectability, and this is one of those that I think we need to.
I have
put down
3
and say,
connections
"Hold on a second."
specifically that are in the comp plan that I want to get done before we switch over to our new comp plan, and this is one of them. So.
Yep, that's exactly right. That's, when I saw this, that was my first one and only concern.
I will say there is a concern that if this is connected before we make an improvement to Rabbit Trail on 100, that's only going to make Rabbit Trail on 100 worse.
Right.
But that doesn't
But
mean we
it's
shouldn't
still
do it.
connectivity
There's just,
there.
you'd have to do simultaneous improvements, I would
Right.
say.
We can still get there, that's the important thing.
Yep. Nope. So the first thing, Darren, John, and I sat down with Vic when he submitted this, just to say, we show him the comp plan, and we sat, Cameron, Lucan is his engineer or his surveyor, and we said, this is what we're wanting to make it look like eventually to get this connection. And so they are aware in designing that with that in mind. And there was not a cul-de-sac, I can tell you that. There was no cul-de-sac. I think that may be 700 feet anyway. I don't think you can have a cul-de-sac that long.
Yeah.
No,
So.
it's too long for that.
So, if nothing else, I think if we need to make a temporary connection or something there, so it's not a 3-year temporary hammerhead, but that'll be something we have to talk about.
Well, isn't there a bridge we have to build?
Yeah,
A culvert, but we already have half of it under escrow from the Malvern development.
right.
Okay.
There's a
So it's
$40,000 bridge culvert there, that when Malvern came in, half of that was, because you have to give the escrow down to the property line,
Okay.
improvements to the property line, and so half of that's already been designed and budgeted, so.
Are the current owners willing to put any money into improvements for some of that to?
To be honest, guys, I think these would all be conversations
No,
we'd have.
I know.
Conversations will be had.
These are the conversations we'll be having with the preliminary plat. This is really just to figure the zoning.
Except for farm and
Yeah.
those kind of things and stuff too in the past. It's like, they hold out for whatever and then get themselves shoehorned into a situation that they can't get out of.
And we've already even discussed
they
the
can't.
possibility of,
It all takes money.
Yeah.
we've already talked about the possibility of maybe just acquiring half the right-of-way and hugging this property line and then redesigning
Right.
Big's piece but, I mean, again, it's not our property, we're just trying to make sure that the connection is made, but yeah, that'll all be discussed during the preliminary plating process. And they tried to get it in for this meeting, and the whole point was there's some changes that need to be made, and we don't have time. So,
So probably next month we'll see
Yeah.
something,
This is only annexation.
Oh, this is true.
which is a good thing.
Just like John's
Which is a
saying,
good thing.
it's
Yeah.
it's like you want to make sure that coming out there down the road is not, we want to get our two in,
Yep.
one in, one out, kind of,
yep.
Good point, though.
Any other questions, comments? Anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this?
Yeah, I don't think, Vic told me today he was not going to be able to make it. I didn't think the zoning would be too contentious, so I told him that was not a big deal.
It's
If there's
really
no
not
one-
from the zoning aspect, it is from the plot aspect.
right.
Which we'll see again anyway.
Yeah.
If there's no further comments, questions,
I'll make
entertain
a
motion.
motion to approve.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
This is really a pain.
Moving on to item number 7, file number 21-1205, annexation, Waterman Farms.
All right, another annexation. This one,
Yeah, yeah.
the applicant is actually the city or 353 Redevelopment Corporation. I'm sure as if everyone is aware, and the 1st of November, I guess, or the October 27th, I think was the closing date. We purchased 115 acres for our next industrial park. It's the Waterman Farm. It is not the complete Waterman Farm. They're keeping their farm and homestead here, about 25 acres, and then here is the remainder of it that we purchased. Obviously, as you guys all know, we were out. We only have one lot left, not accounted for or not called under contract in Hydeman, and so we needed some land to be able to advertise to growing businesses. And so we've closed on it. Now the next step is to bring it in to the city limits. We are requesting to zone it M2 heavy industrial, which is what all of our industrial parks are. Our comprehensive plan, I put in the packet, I didn't put on the slides, I apologize, does show actually this piece as industrial. And this is about as far southwest as our comp plan went at that point, but this is shown in the comprehensive plan as M2. And so we're just requesting that to meet the stipulations of the comp plan and for the Richard Oldenburg Industrial Park. So,
This is a feather in Sal's cap twice.
Yes.
Any comments?
Our drawing in our packet is different than that. So,
oh, I'm sorry. So in the packet, the county map highlighted the whole thing.
yes.
So this is, I drew this as best I could with my mouse. The survey in your packet is excluding the 25 acres.
That's what I thought.
Yes.
Okay. Then, if that's the case, where is access plan?
So the access will hug this property line. It'll come in right here.
Okay?
And we have already started discussions with MoDOT on that.
Okay.
We're actually turning in an application to their their improvement department on a 50/50 grant for those in April. They're due in April. And so we've already started the discussions. It will require a turn lane and widening of 100 from Foss down to this. So you'll see some major improvements there. That's kind of what we're waiting on, the ribbon cutting and everything for the park until we start those improvements, because it's hard to advertise an industrial lot for sale if it doesn't have access. So that's the first thing we're trying to get done.
Will that include whether or not it requires a traffic light?
It'll require a study that I will tell you will probably give us a traffic count when it would officially trigger it. So I would assume eventually they're going to say, yeah, this will require, 115 acres. If you look at the size of lots and the number of employees, you could have quite a few employees in there. So I would assume MoDOT would give us a triggering event that would say you need to put traffic light in there. Just like Fall Spring Drive, I bet they'll have us put the infrastructure in early. So it'll be an easy upgrade to do that. And we are looking at how to best plan 100 and this intersection for long-term improvements on 100. The 4-lane stops at High Street now. Our plan has always been to go out to Foss Spring, and so, at some point, and so probably not for 10 years, but we'd like to get the improvements ready to make that 4 lanes happen out west.
So will that study also include KK or not? I want to go that far east.
I don't know if MoDOT will require that. I couldn't tell you. We've already looked at,
Traffic count would definitely increase at that intersection.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah, it definitely could be. So we've already had meetings with Stephen O'Connor, our area engineer, and then when we went to, actually just last week, MoDOT had their regional meeting. We went to talk to them about all the projects and brought this up as kind of the next area of unfunded projects, improvements that they need to add. That was our comment that, we submitted. So we've actually already got a cost estimate of kind of what we think the minimum would be. It's about $750,000 to make improvements there. So it's substantial. Turn lane, new shoulders. And the good news is, since we bought this across the street as well, we don't have to acquire any right of way. We'll make our improvements to the north and kind of straighten that curve out. And then this is the fire department pond here. So, I think we know who to work with there if we need to get, straighten that curve out and get an extra lane. So.
Questions, comments by board?
Yeah.
Anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this?
I'm glad.
If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Item number 8, file number 21-1206, Walter Winters preliminary plat, 5-lot subdivision between 2nd and 3rd Streets. Sal?
Yes, so this is a vacant lot in town that I'm sure everyone is aware of. I think a lot of people have been speculating on what would go here as development has continued downtown. I know we looked at some townhomes here at one point that were then
They're not here.
pulled. They didn't have all their information. But this is, again, property that is in between 2nd and 3rd Street, just west of Olive. It does have access to both blocks there. You can see on the zoning, this whole area is zoned R2 overlay, which does allow for single-family and 2-family residential. Now, that is not necessarily traditional duplex style like you see across the street. This darker yellow is actually R1C, single-family attached. That's where you have a property line down through the building where you have a shared wall, and it's 2 different parcels. This does allow for 2-family, and you could build what it looks like a traditional duplex, but you wouldn't have a property line down the middle. It would have to be rented out on each side or condoed out. The bank or the owner could figure that out. You do see this here. Across the street is traditional duplex. It's actually R2 overlay. That was built before we had our new zoning. When the market crash in 08, banks stopped lending to properties if they had a shared wall without an individual tax ID. So this does allow for 2-family here. Our zoning code requires, if you are going to put a 2-family home for 12,000 square foot lots, and then 6,000 square foot for single family. So, and then I wanted to point out the floodplain here as well, because that's always a question here with the water. There's a creek that runs right through here. This is the floodplain. So anything that's built over that line would have to get a floodplain development permit, just like anything else in town that's required. As for the plat, you can see here is 5 lots. 2 of them will access 3rd Street. 3 of them will access 2nd. The 2 on 3rd are under 12,000 square feet. So those assumably will be single-family, traditional single-family homes. The properties to the north on 2nd Street are over 12,000 square feet, so per our zoning code, they could have 2-family. I don't know if they're wide enough for a traditional duplex, but just like anywhere through that neighborhood, you could have an apartment up, apartment down kind of housing unit. That's what that zoning district is for, and obviously they're not asking for any rezoning, they're just asking to subdivide the land. So we are recommending approval of this. It does meet the minimum requirements of our subdivision development code. It has access to right-of-way, it has access to water and sewer. There's utilities listed on the property lines. The setbacks are actually already called out on the plat that meet the R2 overlay district. So we're recommending approval, like I said, and they actually can get a final plat next week because there is no public improvements that need to be done and there's no escrow that needs to be put up, which would be water, sewer, road. That means they can move forward with a final plat next week. Obviously, there's some stormwater improvements that need to be done, but that's not a public infrastructure that we take over. They just have to get those plans submitted before they get building permits approved. But they are able to get this recorded if it goes through Planning, Zoning, and City Council next week.
Any other questions or
So
comments?
if they decide to go multifamily, they won't have any requirements for parking?
Multifamily, I mean, they can only go 2 units, 2 family, yep. They would have to come back for a rezoning if they wanted anything that's
More than 2.
actual multifamily, yep.
Any
And the applicant is here, I mean, they may be able to shed some light. I didn't ask if they were planning 2 families units up here, to be honest, because the zoning already allows it. I was just looking at the platting of it to make sure that met the minimum requirements. So they may be planning single family all the way through, but it does allow these 3 could have 2 units apiece on there, so.
Anyone in the audience like to come up? The applicant?
I have a question for the applicant if we can.
Good evening. My name is Walt Winters, and actually this land has been in our family since 1840.
Wow.
So it goes back, my grandmother was a Stumpy, and my dad was Winters, so we've had this a long, long time, and it's never been developed, and it was grown up in weeds and trees and all this sort of stuff, so I think it's time to develop it, and especially since the downtown is doing really well. And so our plan is to put up really nice housing, in these 5 lots. The first step, and I work with Mark, is really to get the plat laid out. And then afterwards, what we would do would be to determine, the nicest looking housing to go there.
So how do you propose to handle the creek?
Trees?
The creek?
The creek.
The creek over there, actually, it doesn't affect the 1 lot at all. The major lot where most all of the housing is, it's only in the 1 lot.
Lot 5.
Lot 5 where there would be 1. And so there actually is a culvert through there. And so we're going to have to just work with Sal, and we talked with them already, about, what's allowed and what isn't allowed for that culvert.
Because that catches all the water coming off of Roberts and Second and everything on that side of the street.
I know Mr. Winters sat down with our engineering department already, with John Nilgis, and I believe they talked about maybe extending the culvert with a bigger pipe to hold more water, but again, that'll all be plans that they can submit even after the final plat, really. That's all subdivision development plans that can be submitted later, so.
And I'm assuming you'll do quite a lot of earthwork to bring that hill down?
Yes.
That's what I thought. It's pretty steep right now.
Yeah, I mean, the good thing would be is if we didn't take it down you can see the river. Then you can advertise it as Riverview, but it would look kind of strange if we didn't.
Yes.
So,
Any
A
other,
hill to drive up.
yeah.
To enter
Yes,
the
it would be,
city.
yeah.
Yes.
any other questions or comments?
Are you planning on, I'm just curious myself, I mean, zoning would allow either, but on Second Street, are those going to be two-family or single-family?
We haven't determined that yet, but we made the lots large enough for duplexes.
Yep.
And if they would be duplexes, they would be really nice duplexes, probably up and down, because of the lot frontage size.
All right.
It's kind of what I thought. I was just curious.
Any other questions?
That house, my brother.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this?
All brick. It's between the guys.
If not, I'll entertain a motion. If you don't have any further
Move that we
discussion.
approve.
I'll second.
First and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
It was a great house.
Council,
Stafford.
next week?
Yes, this will go to council next week, and I'm assuming that the applicant won't have an issue with, but we'll plan on doing the final plat with it. The last, this one will not, but that'll be the only one that'll have final plat approval at the same time.
He had to buy a lot to build it.
All righty, moving on to item number 9, file number 21-1207, Andy Understall, preliminary plat, 6-lot townhome subdivision on West Main to the rear of Zick, Voss, and Polite.
Yes, so this is about a stone's throw away from where we just were, at the corner of West Main and Olive Street here. This is currently 2 parcels, the old recycle center to the back of Zick, Voss, Polite. Andy Understall is the applicant, purchasing that property from them. And actually, the zoning, this was part of the rezoning that we did with our new district boundaries. This was originally heavy industrial. Obviously would not allow for any industrial or residential uses, so there's another developer being able to take advantage of our new district, which is good to see so quickly. So it is C3 that allows for 0 lot lines, no minimum lot size requirements. As for the actual plat itself, they are proposing 6 lots, townhome style, narrow, kind of shotgun style, off of Main Street. You can see 1 on the western side here, right on the corner, going up to 6 kind of uphill. They do have a common area to the rear that'll remain under ownership of the homeowner association. I assume it won't be public. And then they'll have ingress egress that actually will not be public either, but will be a separate lot and have cross-access easements on there for the homeowners to get into the rear of the townhomes. For the zoning code, it does meet our minimum requirements. Again, there's not many since they can have 0 lot line, and then there's no minimums. But you can see the way they have this laid out here. The plat allows for proper fire access and turnarounds and garages. Obviously, that is something that would have to be verified when they actually submit building plans. But when we're looking at the plat, we want to make sure that they're not going to have to revise the plat in order to have that. So this does allow for that. And then I just want to show, they weren't actually required to submit this yet, but he had a very simple rendering. Not simple, shouldn't say that, but just an early sketch. You can see here that kind of shows what it would look like, so you can have the access to the rear. It is 26 foot wide here, minimum, and then it's less than 150 feet length, so they don't have to worry about an approved turnaround. And then obviously you have the driveways into the back in the common area. And the real reason I wanted to show this is in our zoning code, when we made that change last week, anything in C3 at a 4-way intersection has to get a special use permit if they want to build up to the property line. So we actually were waiting to get building plans to let them know if they needed to do that. But they have already shown in this sketch that they're going to have this area open, this square actually is open, and you can see this blue line is the site triangle.
They'll accommodate that.
Yeah, so they actually will not have to come back for a special use permit because they do not have 0 lot line on the intersection. So that kind of solves that, but I wanted to point that out here that that's a new change that we actually won't be requiring that with this, unless that's, of course, this plan changes and they come in with that. I'm not saying they can't, we just have to then review the site triangle and determine if it needs a stop sign at that point for a four-way stop.
Just tell them we like the sight lane like that.
Boy, yeah.
There you go. So we are recommending approval. There is some water and sewer extensions that have to be made. It actually isn't right in front of them on Main Street there. And so this will not have a final plat next week. They'll have to submit those plans, have engineering review that, and then come back to council at a later date. But again, this meets the zoning code of C3, and we are recommending approval.
Questions or comments?
Since it had been a recycling facility, is there any problem with remediation of anything in the dirt?
That'd be a question for the applicant. That is not something that, you know,
That
they have
we
to
would
submit to
worry about?
us, no.
That's not our problem.
That's DNR and the owner's
Okay.
issue.
I just wondered, 'cause I
It
know
was
that's what
recycling
was
there, you're right about that.
Yep. Any other questions or comments? Anyone in the audience like to speak?
Andy?
Pretty straightforward. There you go.
He
Attaboy.
leaps to his feet.
Andy Understall Construction. Yeah, we're proposing these 6 lots, and there's some grading issues there. That's why we're holding the lot to the east about 10 foot off the Blackman property so we can grade into the buildings. That last unit also will not have a 2-car garage. That one would be on-street parking, but all the other ones will have a 2-car garage and a space for 2 cars behind. So each lot will have enough room for 4 cars, basically. And then there'll be on the corner, like you said, we held that unit back because of the way the street turned there, but we kind of must have fell right into the new.
Last month is good.
Yeah, so
Last month
it
is
worked out,
brand new,
actually.
Andy.
But that first unit, that lot's a little bigger, it will have, that one might end up with like a 3-car garage. You know, or it could just be a master bedroom on the first floor, but they all will be townhome style, 22 to 2,400 square foot. So.
I did mention, Andy has had his preliminary meeting with the fire department and site plan as well. I was out of town, but I did follow up in that they are, they've confirmed the fire access and the length and all that to the rear, so. Because we just didn't, again, that's something we review later, but we didn't want it to require a plat revision later. So the way the plat looks, this is what you're actually approving. Here, this allows for proper fire access, so.
Where do you have to go to get your water and sewer?
The sewer, last time we tapped over on Olive, so that we have a manhole on Olive when we did Rhine River. And the water line, we also extended down from 2nd Street. So there's a new water line on the west side of Olive Street. We'll have to, cross Olive Street and we'll come behind the buildings with the water and the sewer. We'll come right up in that common ground, so.
I was just thinking it's not going to affect Blackman because they have some access issues there, I believe.
Oh, okay, we're not.
You're not going to come.
The water
you
line.
You can't come from Cedar. You're not going to come. You've got access off.
Yeah, everything will be off of Olive.
Gotcha.
We thought there was a water line that runs up Main. I think we might have just stubbed a line over there when we did that. I can't remember. We're gonna have to look into that. But either which way, it'd be a lot easier to come in the back of the units so we can come into the basement, with the water and the sewer, so. Thank
Andy,
you.
you think stormwater will work out okay with, you're gonna have additional coming from between 2nd and 3rd Street?
Yeah, I don't know, I guess we'll have to look into that. I mean, a lot of that was parking lot, so there is a little bit of green space you can see there.
This is the only area they'll have to account for.
Right,
with
we'll have to account for it.
stormwater, but
Yeah.
Stormwater.
I know John said they already had the conversation. They're going to look at that, so.
So we'll be obviously raising that building, like you said, but that building never had any underground storage tanks or anything like that, and so it's, should be, Blaine's got a concrete floor inside, so.
Kind of a metal shed they put up there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Thanks, Andy.
Anyone else? If not,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
first and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
And so this preliminary plat will be at City Council Monday. I will not have a final plat until we finalize the water and sewer, but we can move forward with that here, so.
Just to bring up, Sal and I, about 47, we
Yes.
spoke about getting together with MoDOT and start looking at future access and how we can handle future progress. I'm not talking
Yeah, we talked
tomorrow,
about,
but
that'll be a topic for our comprehensive plan discussions of, is an outer road needed down 47? Obviously, that's all zone commercial. We have property owners to the south that are concerned about that as well, and access and vision and all that. So that will be definitely an extension of our comp plan that wasn't really on there last time, so.
That'd be good.
And we're still on track to do that, start that in January?
Yes, yep. So the bids will be out by then, or can't call them bids, the request for proposals will be out by then. And then we can, it's typically a 6 to 8 month review with them. And so then we're still, January 1 of 2023 is hopefully the start date of that. I actually think we did September on the last one for some reason, but.
We did too.
Yep. Might as well start on the new year.
any other discussion items? I'll entertain one last motion.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Happy holidays.
Yes.
Hey, eight item agenda in an hour is not bad.
Off the record, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
How are you, sir? I was thinking about it. I was wondering,